Wanderless Hearts. This is Wanderless Wren, and I would like to welcome you all to the podcast today. So I recently turned 38. I had my birthday a couple days ago, and I was talking to one of my good friends. We're about 12 days apart, and we have been friends since we were 5. And we always have the best conversations about just everything that's going on in our lives, from raising children to our dating lives to our professional lives, like literally everything. She is like a sister to me. I love her to death. And so today's episode is going to be all about online dating and some of the horror stories and some of the things that her and I have gone through and that she's still going through with an online dating experience. Now, we're all familiar with, a realm of different online dating services. You have Tinder, you have Plenty of Fish, you have Hinge, you have Match.com, you have Bumble, you have all these different ones. And one of the things that I know that my friend uses a lot was Bumble, because she liked that she could not just get random messages. Like, she would have to like the person first, and then she sends the first message, being the female. So that was one of the apps that she always liked and always thought, that they would be a little bit better quality men. I personally don't like to send the first message, so that one did not really work for me. Obviously, I'm in a relationship now, so we're going back now to prior to this relationship that I'm in. That we're married now, so it doesn't really matter. Definitely not on any dating apps anymore. But my husband and I actually met on Hinge, and I really like that app. It is free. At least it was when I was on it. But I liked it because I was just very transparent. I felt like the profiles had a lot more information. You kind of had a better feel for what the person was about. It wasn't like Tinder, where it just had a couple pictures, and we all know what Tinder's for. It's kind of like a hookup site. So a little bit different. But Hinge, I felt like you actually kind of got to see the person's personality. There were more questions. There were, more in-depth things about them that were listed in the profile. So you kind of had a better idea of what they were looking for. And before you actually would like them, you could actually read a little bit more about them versus just looking through pictures. Now, with my friend, she met her ex-husband on Bumble. And I was visiting her in Los Angeles, which is where she lived at the time. And I met him for the first time, and we all went out and had a glass of wine, and he did not drink. He said, I don't drink, I'll be the designated driver. And her and I only had like one glass of wine. We just sat there and talked. I was kind of grilling him, because that's what best friends are supposed to do. And I really thought he was a stand-up guy. Not to mention he was very attractive, but just a very smooth talker, seemed to kind of have his life together. And, I thought he was going to be a great match for my friend. Now, I will say that this man put on one heck of a show, because he had every single person in her family, me, her, like literally everybody was fooled by this guy. And it blows my mind that somebody like this just lives with themselves. So we're going to get into this story a little bit. I did have her permission to talk about this, because, people really need to be aware that these types of people are out there and that they exist and they're on these apps, and they will say and do anything just to con you, essentially. So basically, this guy, moved in with my friend, and things were getting serious. And on a second visit out to Los Angeles to visit her, she told me that she was getting married. Now, my friend is one of those who I have not really seen her around a lot of men. Like, she's not one to just date anybody. She's very selective. She's very, I wouldn't say picky, but she knows what she wants. And so in that sense, she is picky. But she's just not one to settle on anybody. So for her to tell me that she's getting married was kind of like, okay, and it had only been maybe 5 months into their relationship that they decided this. And, being the supportive friend, I went along with it. I didn't really say anything, because I thought, she knows what she's doing. She's been selective this long. So let's, trust her judgment and let's go forward. So she told me that she was getting married in Vegas, which, whatever, I've been there too. And, didn't want to spend a lot of money on a wedding, but she did say, I want to have my friends and my family there, would you like to come to the wedding? And of course I'm going to go to the wedding. I'm her best friend. So a bunch of us fly out there, we go to their wedding, we had a good time. Just before we left, actually, we found out that she was pregnant. And so I just, kind of asked her, I said, you're not getting married just because you're pregnant, are you? And she said, no, this is the real deal. And I believed her because, again, he had everybody fooled with his charm. And so we went out there, we got them married and had a nice time celebrating. Obviously, she was pregnant, so there was very clean celebrating, which was kind of nice for Vegas for me because at that point I was kind of slowing down on the partying. Um, but we had a nice time. Vegas went well, and everybody just seemed to be happy go lucky. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline of when this all happened, but all of a sudden there was a woman who showed up at my friend's apartment in Los Angeles and was looking for the guy. And I'm not using names here because, I kind of want to keep some of this confidential for them. But, this woman shows up and my friend was like, well, you're obviously looking for him. And he was trying to hide in the doorway, didn't want anything to do with it. She's like, well, obviously you know who this person is because you're cowering in the door. So she flung open the door and let them, kind of hash it out. And apparently he had multiple Bumble accounts with different names, just all different stuff, different descriptions, different, he used a lot of the same pictures, obviously, but he had been meeting them with different names and things like that, trying to stay under the radar so that he wouldn't get caught. And prior to this woman showing up at the doorstep, he had also been working out of town frequently. And apparently that's when he's been going to see this girl. So, had multiple relationships going on. And as things tended to surface here with the story, all of a sudden he had other children that, my friend didn't know about. He doesn't have anything to do with these children, doesn't pay his child support, just a crap dad, not involved, doesn't care, and keeps all of that a secret. So all of a sudden, she's finding this all out, and, mind you, she's still pregnant with her daughter, and he's just going along, trying to cover his tracks and, whatever. So she flat out told him, I will divorce you if I, continue to find out that you're still doing this. And so he swore he was going to stop. And they decided to move to Tennessee to be closer to her family. And apparently that's where he's from too. So his family was there. And they were going to move out there just to have a better place to raise the baby. So she goes ahead, they move to Tennessee. He drives the cars out there. She flies. She gives birth. And I remember going to Illinois, which is where we're from, to go to her baby shower. And I was so furious because I think I was the only one at that point who knew the truth about what was going on. And it was so hard for me to not just like punch him in the face and, cuss him out and just ream him. And knowing my friend's brother too, it's good that he didn't know because it obviously would have been very chaotic. And for the sake of her pregnancy and the fact that she was trying to salvage the marriage, I had to give her a little bit of kudos on that because obviously I wanted her to be happy. And I thought, well, if you're going to give the guy a chance, we're going to give the guy a chance, and I have to get on board. That's your decision. And as much as it pained me because I could see and hear the pain in her voice of what she was going through. And it was absolutely devastating as the best friend to just kind of sit back and watch it all happen. But again, trying to be the supportive friend. So that's what I did. And it ended up happening again. And he was still, up to his shenanigans, had all these fake profiles, was still dating other people, whatever. So she decided finally one day, that's enough. And she divorced him. So I was very happy that she made that decision because I wanted her to be happy and not living in this life of a lie and raising their daughter up to believe that this is what, a normal man should be like. And it was really difficult, and it still is difficult for her because he's not really, involved. He sees his daughter, for 4 hours every other Saturday. And he is the definition of a couch surfer. So if anyone doesn't know what a couch surfer is, it's literally where you date somebody to live on their couch because you don't have a place of your own. So literally every time that we talk about him and, or she mentions it just kind of in passing, like, oh, he's going to be here this weekend to see the kid, whatever. I'm like, oh, whose couch is he living on now? Because, that's what he does. He serial dates to live on someone else's couch until he finds someone better. And for those of you who've never seen the documentary on Netflix, it's called Tinder Swindler. I wouldn't say he is the same in regards to the financial aspect of that show, but he is absolutely a couch surfer who uses these apps to further himself. He doesn't have anything of his own. He doesn't have a place of his own. Half the time, I think he's lying about where he's working and what he's doing. He's just one of those people who is a compulsive liar, living in his own lies, very much like my sister, and just kind of lives in this fantasy world of what's real and what's not, and where am I going to end up next? Whose couch am I going to go live on next? And he doesn't care where they live in the United States. He will move wherever. Um, and then magically is still able to come back to see his daughter for 4 hours every other Saturday, which blows my mind. So he's just crazy, and it just makes me really sad for the people who are out there trying these online dating apps that are experiencing relationships like this or coming across people who are like this. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, dating apps is really the only way that we're meeting people, the only way that we're dating, the only way we're experiencing new people. And that's because a lot of people, and I think COVID has a lot to do with this, but more people have become more introverted. They don't feel comfortable going up to somebody as a stranger at a bar or a club or a grocery store even. So people tend to just meet on these online dating apps, which it is what it is. I mean, like I said, I met my husband on one too, but you have to be very cautious of these weirdos that are out there, because not only could something happen to you, but then you end up in a situation like this where you don't even know the person and who they truly are, and then you get married or pregnant, and you're stuck now with this person in your life, and it's devastating. So my friend has met multiple people that she has tried to go out with, and every time that it seems like it's going to be a good match, that it's going to work out, there's always something looming in the background. And my friend is the sweetest person. She has, just the purest heart. She has good intentions. She's a hard worker. She's very independent. She's a strong woman. I absolutely love her. She's so sweet. And she deserves to have, a great man in her life that's, gonna love her and be there for her, and just her, like just have a normal relationship. And it seems like everybody either, is still stuck on their ex or can't deal with the situation of the ex, and they're looking for comfort outside of that, even if they are divorced and done. They're not over it yet, so they jump into dating way too fast, and then she's trying to have a relationship with this person who's not over the past, and it's difficult, and that makes it really hard, because some of these people are just looking for that quick soothing aspect. They want somebody who's that they feel comfortable just to kind of relax, like a rebound, and it's just not the place for it. I remember when my husband and I first started talking on Hinge, he had recently gotten divorced, and I've been divorced too, and he had a son, and so there was obviously a lot of questions that I had. What is your relationship like with your ex? What's your parenting style? How are you guys co-parenting? Like, I had a lot of questions about that, because I didn't want to go through the same thing that my friend did, where, I was going to end up in a situation where he was going to go back to his ex, or he doesn't see his children or his child. I didn't want to get with somebody, because I knew that I wanted to have a child as well. So I wanted somebody that was going to be a good father figure, but that was over his past. He was ready to move forward. And we had, our bumps at the beginning with that, because the divorce was still fresh. And I think part of that on his end was a rebound. But on the other end, I really think that he genuinely was looking to move on. He wanted to settle back down again. And he's not really one, he was with his ex-wife for a very long time. And I think for him, coming back into the dating pool was different. It was kind of a shock, because when he met his wife, they were in college, and that's a different place of meeting people than going on an online dating app. So when he met me, we both had our guard up so high, trying to weed out weirdos, that we just kind of like laughed at the different stories that we had. We shared some of our dating, traumas, and we just kind of laughed at it. And then we were able to build a relationship on that, which was kind of funny. But, I always tell my friends that I got lucky that he came back into the dating pool when he did, because he didn't have the chance to get tainted by all of the crazy people that are out there. One of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about online dating is that when you go on your first date with this person, and hopefully you've been talking to them for a while, you kind of feel somewhat comfortable enough to meet them in person. But, when you go and now you're in person, it's like you're at a job interview. You're asking each other questions and you're trying to gauge whether this is going somewhere or if you're not going to be a match instead of just enjoying your time together. It's kind of strenuous, and that first date is very awkward. I mean, anybody who goes on a first date with somebody online, it's always awkward. I remember with my husband, we literally told each other before we even met each other. I mean, we had talked for a couple, I don't know, a couple weeks maybe, going back and forth. And I said, listen, I'm a flight attendant. I'm not home very often, so my time is very valuable. If I'm going to agree to meet up with you, I expect that you're not going to stand me up, that you're going to show up, that you're going to be there, and that this is worth my time. And so we had agreed that we were going to lay all the skeletons on the table on the first date and then decide, is this too much baggage for you or are you good with it? And that's exactly what we did. And we laid it all out. We were at this restaurant for like 2 or 3 hours just talking and laughing about all the stuff we had been through. And we made light of the situation, and I could tell that he had a good sense of humor and he was lighthearted, and he'd be the kind of guy who'd be strong enough to weather the storm of a relationship if it were to come to that. And that was very soothing and comforting for me, to know that there was somebody that was going to be a good match. And I think back to other people that I have dated where it's like, just, you can't wait. Like, you're literally looking at the clock. Like, I can't wait for this date to be over. And in this situation, like, we only called it a night because we had to work the next day. And it was kind of funny because 3 hours or whatever it was just went by in a flash because we were genuinely enjoying the conversation. And like I said, I've been on dates before where I'm literally looking at the clock like, how long are we going to drag this out? Like, we know it's not going anywhere. But going back to my friend's situation with her now ex-husband, he is one of those who relies on his looks. And like I said, he's a very attractive guy. But, he uses that. And then anything else that he says, you're going to believe it because you're like, what, he's pretty? And I can't wait now that we're getting older. I just can't wait to see what that's going to look like for him. What kind of couch are you going to end up on when your looks are gone? And, he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't plant roots anywhere. He doesn't have like a steady career or a steady set of goals. He's just a chaotic mess. But you wouldn't know that because, again, he lives in these fantasy worlds where he'll just tell you all these stories and make you believe that he's something more than he is. And in this case, he is a hockey player. And we had gone to Vegas, also on the wedding trip. He was playing a hockey tournament in Vegas. And so I'm over here thinking he's like this professional hockey player. And no, it's not professional hockey. Like, granted, he's good, but he's not, playing for like the Blackhawks or something. He's not a professional. And I don't know if he thinks that he's going to be professional, but like, no one's going to want someone in their we're at our end of our 30s here. So nobody's going to want somebody that old to be joining a professional hockey team. I'm sorry, but even if you're really, really good, you're probably not going to make the cut. But in his mind, he's the best, hockey player out there, and that's what's going to happen. He's going to go pro, and he's going to play all over the world, and, he travels for these things, but he's probably paying to be on the team. He's not getting paid to be on the team. So it's kind of interesting to me that, he lives in this fantasy world, and that's what these girls believe is like, oh, I have this hot hockey player, blah, 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 blah. Girl, he's living on your couch. He is living on your couch, and you are paying the bills, and he is reaping the benefits. He's literally the definition of succulus. And what's funny is that my sister is very much the same. And my friend and I have joked about it before where we're like, we really need to like set the two of them up because they would drive each other crazy. And they would just be, it would be like just a tsunami of terror that they would reap on people. Like, seriously, they would destroy each other. I know personally that my sister, I haven't spoken to her in years. I can't stand the compulsive lying type personalities. I can't stand people who live in a fantasy world. And just being around my sister, and then with this whole thing with my friend's ex-husband, just these people drive me insane. And so it makes me just kind of laugh because, you just have to laugh because you're like, really? Like, you're pathetic. And they don't realize that they're pathetic because they live in this world where they think they're the best. And then they suck the life out of everyone around them. So, with my sister, I know that she had done online dating and had dated several people, and she's not a couch surfer. She actually has her own couch, but she does use men for money and things that they can give her. So somehow these men are just, falling at her feet, and they have good jobs, and they're, spending all this money, and then she cons them somehow. And so what's funny is that she dated this guy once that they were going to move in together, and she has three children, and he had two dogs. And so, with three kids, two dogs, and then my sister also has a dog, and I think she's got some cats. So, there was a bunch of pets, a bunch of kids, and they were all going to move into this house. They were going to rent a house. Well, they had found this place on Facebook Marketplace, and that's where they decided to go to. So, my sister went and did the walkthrough, said she really liked the place. The security deposit, the rent, all that together was going to be about $5,000 down. So this guy paid $5,000 so that they could move into this house. The day before they were supposed to move in, she tells him that it was a scam, and that they are not going to get the money back, and there is no house for them to move into. Yet she shows up with like a new designer purse, her hair's done, her nails are done. I wonder where that $5,000 went. But did he question it? No. And I'm like, you're crazy. I don't know if they ended up staying together or not. Like I said, I haven't seen or talked to my sister in several years. The last time that I saw my sister, she actually was working for me at my house cleaning business. And she told one of my clients that she was dating a professional golfer. And this particular client happened to be a big fan of golf. He loves golf. And so my sister was like, yeah, I'm dating this professional golfer. I don't know if she name dropped somebody that actually is a professional golfer, or if she just said that and whatever. But the guy was like, hey, I'll give you $200, and if you can get me an autograph, and we'll call it a day. Well, clearly she's not actually dating somebody who is a professional golfer. So a bunch of time goes by. I didn't hear about this until much later, when another worker of mine told me about it, because the client had mentioned it to him, or to her, sorry. And so I go to the family party, which is the last time that I saw my sister, and I walked right up to her boyfriend, who I met before. This is the guy who spent the $5,000 like an idiot. And I said, did you become a professional golfer? Because last time I checked, you were an EMT. And he looked at me funny. He's like, I don't golf. My sister was like white in the face because she knew she was caught in a lie. And I said, oh, well, this one over here just told one of my clients that she's dating a professional golfer. I said, so I'm either going to need an autograph from you, or I'm going to need back my $200 for my client. With that, of course, they left the party. My sister was all upset and mad and left and whatever. And I just laughed because, and everybody else did too, because my entire family knows she's like a walking liar. Like she lives in this fantasy world. Oh, and she's a famous country singer. I forgot to tell you guys that. She is a rock star. She's been put up for Song of the Year from somebody in, I don't know, Finland. And, she's this country singer. So, my sister can sing, but she tries to sing way out of her range. She tries to be more than she is. And one of the best stories that my sister's ever told me, which was actually pretty funny. So she went to the CMAs one year, the first year that she had a single that was released. And yes, you can definitely find it on, any music channel, YouTube, Spotify, whatever. It's out there. And she does have music out there. And she has performed live. I have seen it. And anyway, so she went to the CMAs, and she said that, and she was wearing a bright red dress, okay, the first year that she went to the CMAs. And she said she was sitting 5 rows behind Blake Shelton. Well, Blake Shelton won an award that year, and clearly when it's being televised, the person who wins the award, they zoom in on you. Well, everybody in the picture there was wearing black, whether it was a suit, whether it was a female in a dress, like everybody around him was in black. There was no hint of red anywhere. My sister was not in that picture. Okay, so, you're sitting 5 rows behind Blake Shelton. Then she said, and I just reached up and tapped his shoulder and said, congratulations. And I'm like, from 5 rows back? What are you, an incredible? Like, it blows my mind that people think that they're going to tell these stories and get away with it. Like, your story just from 2 seconds ago doesn't even make sense. And then, the next person that you talk to, you're telling a completely different story, but then you like live in this lie and this fantasy, where you're this famous country singer and I'm just the crappy sister who doesn't support you. It's not that I don't support the music. If you want to sing, sing, but like be you. And that's the issue that I have. I can't stand people who manipulate others. She is one of those. My friend's ex-husband is one of those. They manipulate each other and they just bring everybody else down. And I feel really bad for my niece and nephews because, I'm not a part of their life anymore. And it's not that I don't love them, but I cannot handle being a part of my sister's life. She is a train wreck, and she's a succulus too. I mean, I feel so angry when I'm around her, and I feel so like defeated when I'm around her. She's exhausting because you're trying to keep up with all her lies, and then I'm catching her in her lies as she's telling the stories, and it just drives me insane. I can't stand it. So I cut her out. Now, ironically, one of the guys that my sister had dated on and off for a really long time is a friend of my best friend. We all went to high school together. He's actually in the same grade as my friend's brother, who's 2 or 3 years older than us. So my sister's 2 years younger than me. So anyway, she started dating him. They got involved, whatever. And I remember one time we were at a show that my sister was doing, and she had told us that Morgan Wallen was coming to see her and visit with her because her and Morgan Wallen are really good friends. So apparently we were all going to get the house ready, her boyfriend's house ready, because he had a spare bedroom, and Morgan Wallen was going to stay over in the spare bedroom when he came to visit. So apparently his flight from Nashville was supposed to land in Chicago at like 4 o'clock. So my sister was performing, and she was done at like 3:30 or whatever. And I'm like, well, we should probably go because don't you have to get there to the airport to pick up Morgan? And she's like, oh no, his flight's delayed. He said he's going to text me when they're on the ground. Mind you, we are an hour and a half from where my sister was performing to the airport. An hour and a half. Nashville is not a far flight from Illinois. I mean, you'd be lucky if it's an hour and a half. So I'm like, well, if he already took off, you should want to go because he's going to be on the ground. You're not going to, what are you going to do? Make him wait for an hour and a half when you leave right when he lands? That's ridiculous. The fact that she tried to kind of play me in that situation, I am a flight attendant. I know the way the airports work. I can check all the flights. I can look at all that data. I know whether there's a flight or not. And the fact that she tried to say that he was coming in, there was no Nashville flight at that time. There was not. There was not one. So unless he was coming in on a private jet, which more than likely he wouldn't be arriving in O'Hare on a private jet, he'd be going to a surrounding, smaller airport for discretion. And he was up for vocalist of the year or new artist of the year or something that year, and he won. And she was like, oh my god, he won, and he called me right away to tell me about it and whatever. And I'm like, so when Morgan, quote unquote, finally landed in Chicago, my sister and I and her then boyfriend were all going back to his place so that we could drop off all the vehicles, and we were going to ride in one car to go get Morgan. So she was taking a phone call and conveniently stepped away from where we were standing. And I looked at her boyfriend, and again, I've known him for a lot longer from before they were even dating. And I looked at him and I said, this is all a scam. I know that he's not actually coming. I said, but I got to see how this plays out. He goes, me too. And we just start clearing out the back of his truck so that we could fit everybody back there. And him and I are just laughing back and forth because we know she's full of crap. Like, it's not really happening. So sure enough, she comes back over from taking her phone call, and she says, his flight was canceled. He's not coming. I'm so upset. I just want to go home. And she tries covering it up because clearly he was never coming to begin with. And I said, yeah, I kind of figured that because there was no flights coming in from Nashville. And she just kind of looked at me like, what? And I'm like, we know that you don't really know him, and you act like you guys are best friends and you talk all the time. Like, it's literally a lie, and it's another fantasy world that you're living in. So needless to say, her and that guy broke up several times on and off, and finally he blocked her number because she was annoying him. And I guess the point of this is these are two different personalities, two different genders that are on these dating apps that are, just completely sucking the life out of people. So whether they're trying to use you for your money or they're trying to, get something from you, whatever the case is, like, you need to be very aware of your surroundings, because what's going to happen then is you're going to have my sister and my friend's ex-husband. He's going to be trying to play her, she's going to be trying to play him, and then what's going to happen? So he's going to end up living on her couch, and she's going to end up, you know, buying him something or giving him something or doing, or she's going to end up pregnant, and it's going to be another kid he's not going to claim. And it's going to go around in a circle, and they're going to destroy each other, but he can't leave because he's living on her couch. So I know this episode has just been me rambling on about different things, but what's funny is, like, everything that I'm telling you has actually happened. And I still have yet to see my sister with Morgan Wallen at anything, you know, any pictures or anything. I would love to call the number that's in her phone and see if he actually answers. And I have nothing against Morgan Wallen. I love his music, so this isn't really about him. It's about the relationship that he quote unquote has with my sister. And then it's, you know, my friend's ex-husband who just lies his way through life to have a new couch to sleep on. So apparently him and his girlfriend, who were living in Texas, showed up at my niece's, which is my best friend's daughter's, birthday party. And this was just a couple of months ago, and prior to him arriving for this party, he had told us that they needed to go to LA because his girlfriend's grandmother was not doing well. So at the party, or just before the party, my friend found out that they had been in Vegas, and they were there for a hockey tournament, and they of course went to party and this and that and whatever. There was no mention of grandma. So when they got to the party, I said very nicely and sweetly, and I remember because the girlfriend kept trying to make friends with everybody that was there, and thank you so much for inviting me. And my friend was like, I didn't invite you. And it was just kind of funny because she seemed very sweet too, but apparently she's very much like him. So they're using each other, but she's got a couch for him to sleep on, y'all. Like, that's why he moved to Texas. There's a free couch. So anyway, I go up to her and I say, so how's your grandma? And she just looked at me and she said, oh, she's doing great, thanks. Now, everybody at the party already knew the truth, and we all knew that they were in Vegas. And my best friend's dad was sitting at the table when I asked her that question. And I just said, oh, okay, good to hear. And I got up and went over to get some more food. They had like a little buffet thing set up for food. So I went over there. She followed me over there. And her ex-husband, my friend's ex-husband, would not leave the girlfriend out of his sight. Like, he was carefully watching all of the conversations that were taking place. And she very carefully came over to me and quietly said, I didn't know that he lied about where we were, so I'm really sorry that, you know, this grandma thing was a lie. And I just kind of laughed because, of course, you knew that that's what he said. You know, you probably were behind it too, and were like, oh, you know, they'll never find out. It's my side of the family. But, you know, people are dumb. Like, you post things on social media, and people can find it. Everybody's going to find it. Like, why do you lie about it? You're going to be found out. And it's just absolutely ridiculous, some of the things that people lie about. And like something like this, where clearly your hockey tournament or your girlfriend is more important than your child, who is having a birthday, who's counting on you to be, you know, there to visit with her and stuff like that, but you're not there because you'd rather be doing other things, then walk out. Don't play a part-time father. Which, you know, that is the most heartbreaking thing too for my friend's daughter, because she has to kind of watch him go every single time, and there really is no built relationship. He shows up with a present or something, she's like, thanks, and then they move on. And she doesn't ask about him, she doesn't want to talk to him on the phone, she doesn't want to FaceTime with him because she doesn't have a relationship with him. She doesn't want a relationship with him because he just comes and goes based on whoever's couch he's living on, and if that's close proximity to where they live, you know, and my friend's done. You know, she's like, if you want to see your kid, you need to make the time. I'm not going to come to you. You're the one that's, you know, out there couch surfing all over the USA. And I really hope that he, you know, at some point finds this podcast and actually listens to it, and maybe he'll realize how stupid he is, and really, you know, that he's at the loss here, because my best friend and her daughter are both amazing people, and he is missing out on a chance to know his daughter, a chance to have a relationship with his daughter, a chance to be a father, because he would rather be chasing some tail. And let's face it, he's the one that's losing here, not my friend, not, her daughter does miss out a lot as well because she doesn't have that father figure. But I will say that my best friend does a fantastic job of being both parents. She is there for her daughter for every single thing. She, sucks it up. She drives, far for work. She makes it work for them. She does everything that she possibly can to give that little girl the best life that she can. And he just comes and goes when he pleases. He wants to be the fun parent, and she has to be the learning parent. She has to be the one that's instilling these values into their daughter, and she is going to be better for it in the long run. And what's sad is that he does have other children that he has nothing to do with, or the mom doesn't want them to have anything to do with it because they don't like the come and go. You can't just decide, oh, I want to be a dad today, but not tomorrow, but just maybe today, or maybe in a couple days when I'm free. It doesn't work like that. You have a child and you need to step up. If you're not going to step up, you need to step out and stay out. In the long run, this just becomes more of an issue for the child than for the adult, because they're the ones at a young age who think that this is normal. And I remember telling my friend when she was kind of contemplating on the divorce, she said, well, I don't want my daughter to grow up in a split home. And I said, but she's going to think that this behavior is normal, and this is the guy she's going to end up with one day. And you want better for her. You don't want her to end up in a relationship like this. You want her to end up with a good person. You want her to see the way that love really should be. And eventually my friend will find that, and she will, be able to bring that around her daughter if and when it ever happens. But staying in that relationship, in that marriage, with him out doing his own thing, isn't going to be conducive for your daughter. And I do think ultimately that was the final piece of advice that I gave my friend. Not that I was pushing her to get a divorce, but I'm like, you have to look at it from all aspects. You have to look at it as, okay, if you stay, this is what she's going to know. This is what she's going to grow up thinking is normal. If you leave, he can go do his own thing and make his own choices. And then you will be able to instill the proper values and goals in your daughter. And you can do it. I have so many friends of mine, coworkers of mine who are single parents that do a fantastic job. And if, the other person doesn't want to be a part of their life, that's really their loss. And it sucks and it's sad, but it's a hard truth. I remember once I was dating a guy who I would now consider a couch surfer. So yeah, I fell victim to that too. This was a relationship I had right before I moved to Florida. And he had a daughter that he had nothing to do with. And I was trying to encourage it because, of course, he was playing the victim and, oh, she won't let me see my daughter and blah, 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 blah. And I ended up, kind of talking to this mom and getting to know her a little bit. And I'm like, bring her over. Let's have her for the afternoon. And she, I remember after him and I broke up, she had talked to me a little bit and said, the only reason I let him spend time with her is because I knew you were there and I knew you would take care of my daughter. And that's really sad that, you have this guy who just doesn't, can't take care of her. Like, you wouldn't trust him to take care of his child. And it's really sad that comes down to it. But what I found was really funny was, he was also a couch surfer and was, jumping jobs and didn't really have his own thing. But the biggest thing that really, really, really got to me was that, and I don't know that I ever told this to her, so if she's listening to this podcast, I'm sorry if I'm going to be the one to throw him under the bus here, but, I was the one who was paying his child support because he would rather go and spend that money on weed. Now, I didn't mind to pay the child support for one or 2 weeks, just to kind of catch him up a little bit. But then when I found out what he was actually spending his money on and that he had money for weed, but he didn't have money to pay for his child, that's when things started to go really south. And I'm like, you need to get your stuff together. And finally, I had enough. And I threw him out. I said, go find someone else's couch to live on because you're not going to live on mine. And you are not going to, I had to push him to go through court to try to get, a reasonable custody agreement with his ex. And, I was pushing for those relationships, which is why when I met my husband, I flat out said, I'm like, are you involved in your child's life? Are you paying your child support? Are you doing what you are supposed to be doing as a father? And He is, and he's a fantastic father. When I saw my husband interact with his son, the first time that, we got together and the first time I was meeting his child, which was a couple months after we started dating, that was when I knew I loved him, was just watching his interaction with his son and how genuine and how fun they were together, and just, the life that he, pulled into his son. They were just having fun together, and he enjoyed being there, and you could just tell that all of that was genuine. None of that was fake. None of that was putting on a show for me. And just the genuine love between him and his son was just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I knew right then and there that I wanted to have my life with this man, and I wanted to have a child with this man. And so we did. We had my daughter, and so now we have both kids, and we have a great family dynamic. It's a challenge sometimes, and we work through it, but it's a wonderful dynamic, and I'm really happy, that I didn't have to go through, any of that Illinois couch surfing stuff with my husband now, because I flat out would have not even met his son if he would have told me, I don't see him. I don't, I'm not involved, whatever. Like, that would have been a deal breaker for me, because there's more to the story. I've been around enough to see what other people are doing, and it's crazy. And, you get people like my friend's ex-husband where, he'll show pictures of their daughter to these other girls that he's on these dating sites, and he uses them as a pawn, as a trophy. Like, hey, I've got this beautiful daughter. I'm in love with her. Like, I see her all the time. I'm a great dad, blah, blah, blah. Yet, do these women ever stop to consider, like, he's spending all his time on your couch, and when is he actually visiting his daughter? You are literally with him all the time. He is living on your couch. And when have you seen him leave to go spend time with his daughter? Because chances are, if he's saying that he's spending time with his daughter, he's probably actually looking for a new couch. And I can say that confidently because when I was a kid, my dad was involved. He did, he paid his child support, and then he got behind and whatever with his job. But, he tried, at least to my knowledge. But the thing with my dad is he was very controlling. He was very psychologically and mentally abusive, sometimes even physically abusive. And as I got older, became sexually abusive. So I had a very different childhood with my father, but one of the things with my dad that I always noticed was anytime we were in public, he was always, oh, these are my girls, these are my daughters, I'm so proud of them, they're great kids. And, we were great kids, but none of that was because of him. We were afraid of my dad. We wanted nothing really to do with him. We would just kind of go through the motions every weekend that we had to go with him, and just to get through it without, kind of the path of least resistance, the path of let's not get yelled at this weekend. Let's just sit here and be quiet, get through it. Sunday will come quick enough. And we dreaded it. We hated going. And it's one of those things where, he used us as pawns. And I saw that all the time as a child. And I thought to myself, like, as I got older and recognized what was happening, and that he was trying to portray himself to women specifically, that he's this stand-up father and he's this great father figure, but they don't know what goes on behind closed doors. They don't know, the jerk that he is to us, and what he's, saying to us, and the way he talks to us, and the way he's making us feel as, human beings, not just as daughter, but as a human being. And so you have to kind of take that, at least I did. I took that as empowerment to be better. I knew that I wanted to be better than what he expected. And, my mom is a fantastic person. She's one of my best friends. I love my mom. And my mom did the best she could with us. And, my sister fell off the wagon. I think that she plays more of the victim because of my dad's situation, or our upbringing situation. I think that she feels that she got shorted and she's owed something, and that's why she lives in this fantasy world and whatever. So she kind of went the victim route. I went the survivor route, where it's like, nope, I'm not going to listen to what you said. I'm going to just be me. I'm going to be better. And screw you. I'm going to show you that you're wrong about the way that you think about me. But the point here is that children are not pawns. They are not, you can't just show a picture and be like, hey, this is my daughter, I'm a great father, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not. Stop lying. You don't see your kid. You're surfing on couches. you aren't paying your child support, you'd rather spend your money on weed, you'd rather, pick up chicks using your children, and you don't care, like these dads just don't care. So I can't say all of them. Obviously, this is a very short, amount of stories that I've shared with you guys today, but it just goes to show you that it's out there. And so if you're online dating, you really need to be cautious. You need to be looking at all those red flags. And the second you start seeing those red flags, don't quickly just kind of make excuses for those flags. Take those flags and run, girl, run. And it can even be for guys too. You meet up someone like my sister, the second that, she's asking you for money, or she's asking you to watch her kids, or she's asking you to buy her something, run, because she is literally going to be a succubus of your life too. So we're about to wrap things up here. I just want to throw it out there that if you guys are listening, any of the people that I've mentioned in this podcast, for my sister, if you are interested in meeting my friend's ex-husband, I'm sure that he's surfing around on a couch somewhere. If you look on Bumble, you'll probably find him. He's probably got multiple profile pictures. Just look for the pretty one with the bushy eyebrows, and just give him a couch to live on. And ex-husband, if you're listening, if you are interested in meeting my sister, she'll be at the CMAs, probably, a couple rows back from Blake Shelton again, and maybe sitting next to Morgan Wallen, because they're probably, best friends again. But, you can catch her there. You can catch her on Spotify. You can catch her on YouTube, whatever. She's around. And y'all would make a great match, because you know what? We do not have the energy for your shenanigans. We just don't. And we're over it. And y'all just need to get off the dating sites and just be done, because no one else really wants to be a part of it. Okay, so good luck with your couch surfing. Good luck with your country music career. Good luck with Morgan Wallen. And thank you guys for listening to Wanderless Wren. We are out of here. This has been Wanderless Hearts, signing out. Have a wonderful day. Until next time, happy reading, happy flying.